Welcome to The Explainer. Have you ever stood backstage or maybe right outside a boardroom door and you could just feel your heart literally pounding in your chest? I am thrilled to have you here today because if you're a focused learner actively seeking ways to optimize that exact feeling, well, you're in the right place. Let's just dive right into this. Today, we're looking at the core concept of mastering, not just barely surviving, but mastering high-pressure, highly competitive environments. We've pulled together some truly fascinating insights drawn directly from a specialized corporate training program designed specifically for competitive performance excellence. Our goal right now? To build your mental preparedness for precision, confidence, and consistency when the stakes are at their absolute highest.
So what if stress actually isn't your enemy? Seriously, we're going to challenge everything we usually hear about stress today. We're stripping away all of that standard corporate seminar fluff, and instead, we're building a high-octane mental toolkit. We usually treat stress like a villain, right? Something we need to completely eliminate from our lives if we want to be happy or successful. But what if that perspective is actually the exact thing holding you back? What if the intense pressure you feel before a big presentation or a tight deadline is actually the exact fuel you need? Okay, to figure that out, we first need to define what stress actually is. Biologically speaking, it's simply the body and mind's response to pressure, challenges, demands, expectations, and uncertainty. So the absolute crucial point is right here. Stress is inherently neutral. It's really just a physiological and mental response to an external trigger. It's not a disease. It's not purely negative. It is quite literally just your system waking up to meet a demand.
And that brings us to a really crucial distinction. There are actually two types of stress. First up, we have positive stress, scientifically known as eustress. And this type is incredible. It motivates your performance, it enhances your alertness, and it completely improves your readiness. It's that amazing surge of energy that gets you right across the finish line. On a flip side, we have negative stress, or distress. Now, this is the kind we're far more familiar with, right? It creates anxiety, it fogs up your mental clarity, and it severely impacts your confidence. By splitting these two up, we officially bust the myth that all stress is bad. It's really all about which version of stress you're operating under.
Let's break down how this actually builds up inside your head. When a demand is placed on you, a super rapid sequence kicks off. Step 1. Your amygdala instantly activates the fear response. Step 2. Cortisol immediately floods in, dramatically spiking your stress levels. Step 3. Adrenaline hits your system, instantly jacking up your alertness. And Step 4. Your thinking completely shifts from strategic to entirely reactive. This whole cascade happens in the absolute blink of an eye. And if left unchecked, this rapid surge of distress drastically degrades the quality of your decisions. You stop thinking 3 steps ahead and just start reacting to the immediate danger.
If we map this out visually, it actually makes perfect sense. When stress is incredibly low, what happens? Low motivation. You're bored. You kind of just don't care. But look right there in the middle. Moderate stress. That is where peak performance lives. You absolutely need that moderate pressure, that eustress we just talked about, to execute at your highest level. But obviously, if you push too far into excessive stress, well, that's where the breakdown happens. The big lesson here is clear. You don't actually want zero pressure. You want to balance pressure intelligently so you stay right in that peak performance sweet spot.
Section 1. The trap. Why we break down. So, if moderate stress is so amazing, why is it so incredibly hard to maintain that sweet spot? Well, because the reality is, in competitive environments, the fear of judgment and the fear of failure just take over, and they cause our attention to violently fragment. We essentially face 2 columns of distraction here. Externally, we have the physical noise around us, interruptions at the office, or the sheer pressure of a live audience watching your every move. But the real trap? That's internal. This is the mental anxiety bubbling within us, the fear, the internal nervousness, those negative thoughts screaming, what if I fail, or what are people going to think? And when you're fighting a battle on both of those fronts at the exact same time, your focus naturally breaks down. And when that internal anxiety really takes the wheel, it physically manifests. Have you ever experienced any of these symptoms of performance anxiety? Suddenly, you're sweating, your heartbeat is racing a mile a minute, and worst of all, your mind just goes completely blank. You add in a wave of nervousness and a heavy dose of self-doubt, and your performance literally drops right off a cliff. It's an awful feeling. But listen, these symptoms are simply your body reacting to the fear of a future outcome. It's just the anticipation of failure. All right, so the million-dollar question is, how do we actually shift from total panic to peak performance? We understand the theory of stress now. We know the science of the brain cascade, and we've pinpointed the physical symptoms of the trap. Now it is time to transition directly into the actionable toolkit. How do we take back control of our physiology and get our focus back?
4, 4, 4, 4. Now, this isn't a secret code or some locker combination. This bold, simple sequence right here is actually the ultimate physiological hack for emotional regulation. When you're sweating, when your heart is racing, and when your mind goes totally blank, this simple set of numbers is exactly how you instantly center yourself.
It's known as the box breathing technique. And I want to slow things down for just a second here to really guide you through how this works. Step 1, you inhale deeply for 4 seconds. Step 2, you hold that breath for 4 seconds. Step 3, you exhale smoothly for 4 seconds. And step 4, you hold it again for 4 seconds before repeating. Inhale, hold, exhale, hold. Doing this creates an instant, incredibly soothing, calming effect over your entire body. Now, you might be wondering, why does something as fundamentally simple as breathing work so effectively? Well, here are the actual mechanics behind it. This specific pacing actively calms your nervous system down. By consciously regulating your oxygen intake, you biologically reduce your anxiety levels. This really simple act serves as a powerful anchor to instantly regain control of your attention. It improves your focus, and it stabilizes your emotions so you can actually think clearly under pressure again. Literally, it stops the amygdala's fear response right in its tracks.
Section 2. The climax, bouncing back from mistakes. Listen closely. Peak performance is absolutely not about being perfect. It is entirely about what happens immediately after an error occurs. Do you spiral or do you bounce back? So why do so many people completely fall apart the second they mess up? Well, our sources highlight a few common psychological traps. People tend to experience an intense emotional attachment to the error. They get completely paralyzed by the fear of criticism. This leads to a total loss of confidence, and they just start overthinking everything. They stay stuck in the mistake, replaying it over and over in their heads, instead of recognizing that mistakes are actually incredibly valuable feedback mechanisms and growth accelerators. So, to stop overthinking and actually start recovering, high performers use this dynamic, systematic approach called the reset formula. R, recognize the emotion. Actually acknowledge that you're frustrated. E, exhale and pause. Hey, use that box breathing we literally just learned. S, shift your focus entirely away from the error and point it directly toward the solution. E, execute the next action. Just take the very next step. T, trust the recovery. This step-by-step mental anchor ensures that you don't stay stuck. You focus purely on the next action with a completely solution-oriented mindset. And here's the best part. When you master emotional regulation through breathing and that mental recovery through the reset formula, an amazing transformation happens. You actively convert negative inputs into incredibly powerful outputs. You convert fear into pure focus. You convert anxious, nervous anxiety into usable energy. You convert overwhelming pressure directly into high performance. And you convert difficult challenges into undeniable growth. You're shifting straight from distress into eustress. Which brings us to this incredibly powerful final thought from our source material. Pressure is not the enemy. Unmanaged pressure is. Pressure is entirely normal, guys. In fact, as we've seen today, you absolutely need it to perform at your best. It's all about how you manage your focus, how you control your breathing, and how you recover from your missteps. So I'll leave you with this provocative thought. The next time you face a high-stakes, high-pressure moment, are you going to let the stress manage you, or will you use these tools to harness that pressure into your greatest performance yet? Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer. Stay focused, stay calm, and perform powerfully.